This week on RSBANDB Update, drop table changes are coming soon. Will they make the economy better? With the balance of skilling and PVM at play, we discuss why MTX is not the problem this time. Also, the player support roadmap and more from the RSBANDB Group Ironman Group. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 1035, recorded Thursday, May 1st, 2025. MTX is not the problem. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week, we have a roadmap check-in that brings news, of course, about drop table changes. We'll get to that all in good time, but we got another variant of the Group Ironman crew here this week. Tanis, you're here as you are. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Shane.
Thaxie's also here to talk about some drop tables.
It's good to be back. Let's do some math-ish.
Math, in air quotes.
Ish.
Fair. And, of course, we also have the fifth member of the RSBANDB Group Ironman here. Tim, welcome to the podcast. Woo! Tim, your first podcast appearance.
Hi, friends.
Tim has been playing RuneScape for a long time. He just told us a story about how he was actually there at the Falador Massacre in 2006.
He survived.
You survived?
No, I died.
Oh, you did?
Oh.
Yeah, I died.
Okay. But go ahead.
I didn't lose anything. I was a noob, but yeah, I died.
Okay, fair enough. But you also told me a story that on your main, which is named Tim. I wonder how you got the name without numbers or anything on there. But you also have done Dungeoneering to completion upwards of 10 times, to the point where you've got over like 2 billion Dungeoneering XP on your main, you told us?
Yep. Sure do.
So not only were you at the Falador Massacre, you were one of those old Dungeoneering Kier type peoples.
Yeah, there's just something about Dungeoneering that I love, like the teamwork about it. Yeah, some of the puzzles are old, the combat's a little bit outdated, but there's just something nostalgic about it. And boy, back in the day, I used to run some dungeons.
And now we felt like we were holding you back when we went as the Group Ironman.
No, we're together.
But in any case, if you want to follow along, full show notes can be found over at update.show. We also have our Discord over at update.show/Discord, and the friends chat can be found in game at BitsBytes. And I just want to also give a big, huge thank you to our experienced tier Patreon members, for whom without update would not be possible. That's Amos Reed, Dominic R., Harry, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Ricky A., Runestar, Oasis, the Naked Captain, Snail Mage, and of course Tim. Thank you so much, everybody. You'll be hearing more about our Patreon offerings a little bit later in the podcast. Okie dokie. So should we just dive into these drop table changes here in general?
Oh, yeah, we got a whole roadmap, and it came with a surprise bomb.
Hey, everyone. Just a bit of a post-edit interjection here. The discussion you're about to hear on drop tables was pulled back on by the Jagex team on Friday for the reasons that they want to address feedback points and adjust the balancing based on the feedback they've received. They'll then present an adjusted proposal and include more details, and then finally they also want to listen to player feedback and decide on next steps. And they also said that they should have brought players in earlier on this discussion rather than just dropping it as they did. So with that in mind, this discussion was before we knew that this was going to be pulled back on, and we'll bring you any new news that comes of this on next week's episode of the podcast. But of course, enjoy the discussion as it was before we knew they were going to pull back on these changes. I wonder if this is part of the update that makes skilling more profitable that they talked about.
Maybe. Likely. Actually.
Because we're looking at drop table changes to the Archglacier, Karapak, Zamorak, Wilderness Flash events, Raksha, and Zuck. just to run through the list quickly here.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, as they were talking about it, they really highlighted that their goal is to especially drive down the amount of gold coming into the game, particularly through alcohols. And, like, right off rip, strong work. Like, as an Ironman who genuinely probably does need a lot of those alcohols, or has used a lot of them, like, it's been nice, but it's a little obscene. We could have made kind of a ridiculous amount of money.
yeah, all of these
So,
bosses pretty much.
I feel like that, on the whole, good. Like, there should probably, it is reasonable to pull gold out of the game by just, like, because so many of these bosses, like, the most money you get from a common drop is literally just like, oh, hey, this thing you throw into an alker and pull out several mil. Like, you know, we've come a long way from the days when, like, once every 12 kills with, like, 4 buddies, next would drop you a stack of, you know, onyx bolts. And, like, that would be, like, the big drop that isn't, you know, a unique. And it feels like those big drops happen a lot more frequently at some of our more recent bosses.
Yeah. And, you know, we're approaching this primarily from our GIM, but you have done a boatload of PVM in the past, as have I. I want to, you know, look at you, Tanis and Tim, and ask you guys, when you look at these at this news here, how does it make you feel in terms of these tables? Let's start with you, Tim.
So I agree that, like, the alcohols situation is kind of out of control, and this is a tuning that I think could have happened a little bit earlier. But I'm glad that it looks like they've taken the time to, like, try and think it through, and they're communicating it and everything.
Well, yeah, we're like 4 years out on, like, Carapac and Archglacior, 3 on Zamorak. We're already at the 4.5 mark for Raksha.
Time flies.
So I think that it's good that we're pulling back from the alcohols being, you know, like, a staple drop. Where, you know, it's like, oh, hey, I haven't had, you know, a unique or, like, a moderately big drop in 3 weeks, but I've got, you know, 150 mil in alcohols. Like, that's not really healthy for, you know, a long-term game plan.
It would be funny if 150 million alcohols wasn't 4 days or 5 days.
Yeah, they like
concerted playtime.
They say some rare drops have been buffed slightly, but they don't necessarily tell us
the rare drops that have been
with.
buffed are from the Wilderness Flash events. The specific buffs they mentioned were the improved chance at the Dark Core, weapons, and brawlers. Brawlers are interesting. Weapons are already pretty cheap, and the Dark Core is probably overdue. So, yeah, I think especially as people kind of wean off doing that content a little bit, I notice less people at them when I go. It probably makes sense to increase that particular drop rate because it is still very expensive.
All right.
I do not know of any other buffs to drop rate. I do not think they changed most of the drop tables.
Like, we're not looking at, like, a Facella or Zuck Sword increase in this to compensate. No.
Negative.
And, like, when you look at this, you might think that that's the top line on that, and that's an important thing to get into, I think, because you remember the discussion that Mod Jack had way back when about bad luck mitigation, in that if you want to make things like that more common, you have to reduce the values of commons. But here we have the reduction of the values of commons anyways, which they say is a game health update. And, you know, those are always controversial. I skipped over you, Tanis, and went straight on to another thought, but go for it.
Well, I don't, you know, when it comes to alcohols, I've never been one that gets too concerned about the amount of gold in the economy. I don't know, but I do remember always being concerned about the amount of, like, skilling supplies. And I remember, you know, many episodes, you know, Slayer PVM episodes where we talked about making skilling great again and how would you do that. And one of the things we talked about, and we've seen
Right.
was when they reduce those raw material drops from the gathering skills. And it just, I like that because that means either you have to engage in the skilling, like an Ironman, and really get into the loop of the game, or you have to part with that gold you earned killing that boss.
Right.
So I mean, in that sense, I think it's just long overdue. But then again, like, I don't know, maybe Shane would know or have an idea, but I don't know what the glut of the market already is, right? So like, I don't know how long it will take.
Yeah, and I
filter
feel like
through.
we've been largely okay. But on one of the things in particular that I'll point to, and I know we wanted to kind of start with just talking about alkables first, but I'll just mention when it comes to things like spiritweed seeds in particular, those are one of the cheapest seeds you can get right now, which to me signifies an oversupply and not enough people farming them. But I'm not too certain on the other stuff. I know we've greatly benefited on the group Ironman from the Carapax side of it, which is on my to-do list as soon as I get dive, which will be later tonight, hopefully. But when it comes to alkables, I feel like our group Ironman is the poster child story of that, with what you, Thanksy, and what Pern has been.
There
been up
are
to.
exactly, just to use this as an excellent example, because you bring it up, and I think it clarifies a point that I think we're going to make looking at a lot of this, that like there are exactly, if you ignore like the holiday event baskets, there are 3 sources right now, technically 4 if you count Luminous Snagglers dropping 2 to 3 seeds, but there are 3 sources where you can get more than 1 Spiritweed seed dropped at a time right now. And the fact that they're so low tells you maybe these 3 sources are dropping them too often, and that is
Bingo.
the Arc Glacier,
Yeah.
and Raksha, both of which are on this list having their Spiritweed seed drops removed or decreased, and Hermod, which makes sense because Necromancy boss drops the ingredients for the Necromancy potions. Not mad about that one.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's an excellent example of like, we've put in too many of these, and clearly there needs to be a lot of them in the economy for overloads and training and everything, but it's probably worth pulling back a little bit.
Yeah, and to be fair, there is also the discussion that goes back to the Garden of Carid as well, and that was something I saw in my initial read through the community this week, so there's still people out there who believe the problems we're seeing, particularly with that side of the economy here, are as a result of the Garden of Carid, and things should just go back to how they were before that, with the bosses dropping, the base herbs rather than the seeds.
It is, I mean, it says something when the worst to drop at almost every boss is the replacement skilling item. Like, most bosses, the worst drop is either a stone spirit or a seed. That is somewhat telling when the herbs and the ores themselves are not at a decreased price anymore. It means that the supplies are that those are, like, I guess, doing their intended job to buoy up the skilling market by not oversupplying it from a boss, which probably means they're doing what they should be.
Exactly. So, and I guess with that also, you start looking across all these bosses, and you start saying, well, what exactly do they all have in common? And aside from the seeds and the stone spirits, it's alkables and charms, and we'll specifically highlight charms in the case of the Archglacier.
So they didn't say anything about charms in any of the others. Specifically, they just mentioned it for Archglacier. So, and obviously, Archglacier is the easiest place to farm for charms, especially at a mid-level when you really need to be or want to be leveling summoning. They specifically called out, we're going to drop those by like at least half.
Yeah, because it's basically the meta for summoning is basically farm blues and crimson from Archglacier at 5 meg normal.
Because that is significantly easier than farming them like just difficulty of fight wise. Somehow that is easier than throwing them from water fiends, which is a little crazy. But also significantly faster. So, like, again, that's super reasonable. 5 mech doesn't drop all that many charms. I kind of wish that they would keep the charms the same at 5 mechanic and higher, because killing 5 mechanic at a medium level is, or even at a higher level, is actually very time consuming. Especially with the way that they've got it set up so that the Arclaser has damage reduction in normal mode when you kill it too fast. And so you literally can't kill it fast in a certain threshold. The charm drops at 5 mech are honestly fine. They're like not exceptional at all. It's just at 0 mechanic where it becomes like you can get, because the charm drops don't change. And they really probably should.
Yeah.
Everything else scales by like a factor of 10 going between.
But we have
the two.
enough to get us all to a reasonable level now, right? Of charms.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, yeah, we're
There's our
Ironman-wise,
self-interest
we'll be
talking.
fine either way. We'll be fine either way, but like, and again, something to mention later, things that were not included, Croesus, and we'll talk about other drops Croesus has later. But the Croesus is Arclaser withstanding. Croesus is still the best source of charms in the game if you kill it efficiently, even with the Arclaser in current patch. So, they didn't touch Croesus at all for any of this. So all of the skilling supplies in that drop table, given it is an air quote skilling boss. But like, yeah, you can still get the charms you need fast.
Does
if you want
this
to. You
make
just have
sense?
To have a buddy or
Does
two.
this make sense is my question.
Yeah,
like,
with
Croesus is a significantly smaller portion of the charms coming into the game because it is group boss. Like solo bosses, especially Arclaser, because you can literally AFK it. Croesus,
it's technically a skilling boss too, right? Like, technically.
It makes sense for it to give a lot of like Overlord supplies and Dragon Stones and those kind of things that are like actual skilling supplies. Like I'm not as mad about them coming from Croesus. It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, like the fact that Glacier also gives something like summoning foci, which don't really have another source in the game, just randomly from this one boss. Like it kind of is the summoning boss. And that needs to be curtailed a little bit. My problem with this, with charms, is that charms do the exact opposite of what every one of these other drop table things reductions does, where every charm you put into the game, it's not going to like sit in somebody's bank. People aren't sitting at the Glacier with an imp eating charms because it doesn't. It doesn't give you good XP, but it's like if you put a red charm into the game, it's going to eventually pull out a yak hide or pull out a steel ingot that somebody has to make.
And some amount of GP as well for the shard.
Right, and the shards. And if you put in a blue charm, it's going to pull out a water talisman. Well, reducing water talismans, great idea. Reducing the use case of water talismans by like not giving as many blue charms, that seems counterproductive to me. It seems productive to that charms which only come from combat should be the thing that you give in combat. It's the stone spirit. It's the seed. It's the this is the secondary that you need to pull skilling supplies out of the economy.
I'm going to say this isn't a boss or drop table problem, Thaxi.
It's a charm problem.
No, it's a summoning problem. I think we have a problem with summoning. I think it's a summoning issue at the core with what you're describing.
You just think like the design of the skill is? I mean,
I think that it needs something in 2025 because it hasn't changed since 2008. It's just had
charms everywhere across the game by 20%. I think summoning would be in a healthier place. It's not a slow skill right now, but it is an annoying skill to grind right now.
Yeah,
that's part of why our Glacier is so good for it.
Right, and they did some interesting stuff with the ancient summoning when Archaeology came out, which I thought was neat in terms of the binding contracts. But everything else, it's exactly as it was in 2008. So I think you look at summoning instead of, bringing charms down. That would be my take. Anyways, go ahead, Tannis.
Is this a place where they could look at when they go to 110? Making changes?
Maybe?
Adding in an alternative system?
I mean, I think that's a great point. Like if you're increasing the amount of charms that you're getting, people aren't going to feel compelled to go spend 15 hours at Arclaser. You know, they're not going to be getting the other drops that are coming along with the charms, you know, which obviously they're going to want, but it's not going to be a byproduct of, oh, I need charms to train summoning.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see where the rates land after these come in, and like we don't have any core numbers on by how much the charms will be reduced now, do we?
I assume that they're being reduced by the same amount as the common, so 30 to 50. I just assumed they were going to match the other common drops. Approximate value -45 to 60 on normal and 10 to 30 on hard, but I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, it all comes down to magnitude, I guess, in that regard. And it's interesting that there were no numbers as posted about the charms in particular on this, and just general, we're bringing common loot down by this much instead.
Yeah, I thought they mentioned charms in particular somewhere, but I'm reading back through real quick and I don't see it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. But
so if they're not touching the charms, then that's interesting. Yeah, no, they say and reduced charm drops. Approximate value -45 to 60. So I assume
okay,
they're
so that's
that by. I'm assuming that just means they're dropping it by half. And again, I'm hoping 0 mech gets a bigger scaler and 5 mech has a smaller scaler, because the charms per hour should not be the same regardless of the mechanics.
No, and I mean, if you look at it then from that perspective, you apply a 50% average reduction to blues as an example. Archglacier, for what else you're getting from it in terms of the combat XP and the other drops on it, should still be a viable method and worth it. So, okay.
So
pages, I guess, is the next question mark here, because that's not mentioned anywhere, is it?
No, that's my question, is do pages count? Because they're listed in the common loot table for most of these bosses that are impacted. So stuff like the scripture pages for the Jas and Wen books in particular would potentially be impacted. And one pages are expensive enough, thank you very much, despite me having a billion of them on said hardcore Ironman and no book.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know. I wonder where they fall, and that's my only note that I have on the pages.
Yeah. And, the Carapac ones are 750K still. So.
Yeah, so both of those could probably use a not nerf, in fact. Because those are the correct item to have a high value.
People say that they don't like Carapac as a boss, but that was my first PVM boss. I still like it. You can still make money from it now until the 12th and probably after it. So I don't know. Yeah. I think Carapac is fine and fun in that regard. Well, there's going to be PVMers who say Carapac's not fun, but it's where I learned. It's a special place. And speaking of, let's go there. Let's go there right now, Carapac.
Yeah, so specifically the thing is, again, I'm going to run through for a lot of these bosses the common loot that is going to be impacted. I'm going to try to list as much as I can everything off the drop table that is not an alchable. So ignoring bolt tips, ignoring salvage, basically. Ignoring battle staves.
Yeah.
Because all of that is... At least bolt tips you attach to a bolt you've made and then enchant before you stick them in it. But, they're... Nah, it's just alks. So for Carapac, the things in particular that are, being pulled out, and I'm not going to go in the order on our document, but things that are crafting supplies like royal dragon hide and dragon stones. There's dragonkin bones, the stone spirits, and soul runes. And I think all of that is fine. The dragonkin bones was not they only dropped 20, 30 at a time, at least on normal mode, and they it seems pretty reasonable. That's fine. The big one that seems like a problem with Carapac is cannonballs. There are not a lot of other sources of cannonballs unless you are, for some reason, camping corporeal beasts.
But let's take.
God bless you.
Let's look at the pudding in the details, or the devil in the pudding, or the fruit.
What?
Mm-hmm. Where are you?
Proof's in the pudding, the devil's in the details, Shay?
I'm mixing up my analogies. You know what I mean?
Keep it in.
What if, and I don't know that there's going to be people out there who are going to want to do this. What if this is a way of seeing if cannonballs and smithing at that level can be made a profitable skilling experience?
They did. I did see somebody say this week that they are planning, as part of skilling changes, to adjust. Somebody was saying we are aware of issues with cannonballs and potentially looking at adjustments to how they are made with smithing. So even if they sped that up by like 2 ticks, because currently the best way to make them is to do it is to like bring your bars to the smelters in Ghost City, Brain, Port Phasmatis, because you make them faster there, and that's fine. But there is room for a buff there. Yeah.
Presently, right now, the money-making guide lists making cannonballs at 4.2 mil an hour, which is not great.
Which is solid. I mean, for how AFK it is, it's okay. It could be worse. But regardless, cannonballs are the ones that's on here that are kind of problematic to me. Again, they're not removing things like Dragonstones from the drop table, which are clearly an important economic, like, they have to come from somewhere. Those have to come from, I mean, I guess you could mine them, but they're the gem rocks are not. I mean,
another one that caught my eye with this one is, if we're looking at the entirety of the commons on here, is the is the stone spirits, if those are getting pulled back. In particular, the light Animica stone spirits. I know those are just overflowing in my bank on my main from how much Carapac I've done.
They're reducing light Animica from these. They're reducing dark Animica from Zamorak, which we'll get to. But again, a lot of these nerfs do actually seem relatively balanced. It's not like we're losing light spirits without another source of them. You obviously also have raids and telos and other things that drop them, but they're reducing a source for each. The primal stone spirits kind of hurts. That I feel like maybe
those are already kind of rare and expensive.
Yeah.
I know I was talking to people who were using them for the 110 push and the subsequent mining of the ores that were needed for the masterwork and stuff, and it's not
the I don't know. Again, some of the stuff I feel like is fine to nerf. A lot of the stuff that is the like replacement skilling supplies, like seeds and stone spirits, unless they're just flooded in the economy, I don't know that I would touch. But again, they're looking at it and making their adjustments.
Yeah,
and they did say 45 to 60, so one of those could be more, one could be less.
Like if you look at the money making guide and you look on average how many you can expect to get of something every hour, even at just normal mode, cannonballs, primal stone spirits, and the dragon bones are the top 3 if you exclude the manuscript. In terms of the drops you get at Carapac, in terms of providing the bulk of the money for that.
Interesting. Yeah.
So,
and ignoring the salvage, I'm assuming.
Right. And then then after that you have the battle staves. The Royal Dragon Hide is actually like 6th on the list, but the stone, the light Animica, the adrenaline crystals, and the soul runes are bottom 3 if you remove Carapac uniques.
Again, the thing with like Royalty Hide, it's a skilling supply, but it's also an alchable. Right? Like you make bodies and you chuck them in an alchor because that's better money than selling them on the GE. So, yeah, I get it, I guess. They didn't do the same thing with battle staves and orbs from Zook, but maybe they didn't need to. I don't know.
And, I feel like I got to spend like the next week at Carapac, and that was my whole reason for starting the dive push last night. I just have Succession to do to get that, just to make Carapac a little bit easier, and then just go in there on the group Ironman and relive the learnings of Carapac with like tier 80 equipment. Day. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You have the Glacier next on the list, but we've kind of already talked about that one a lot.
We talked about it in pre-show a bit. I specifically want to mention, because there's some stuff on here that, like, clearly the Glacier is just a problem, and you can see that literally only from Water Talismans and Crushed Nests. Like, the price on them is, like, 150 gold each or something, like, ridiculous like that, right?
Does anyone care about Crushed Nests, though? Like, obviously, brews. Like, they're used for the brews, but in terms of, like, a herblore experience...
I mean, they're level 80 potion. They're good XP.
Right, and I guess it's your philosophical perspective then if a level 80 potion secondary should be like 220 GP as it is right now.
I mean, it's not worth it to crush nests from elsewhere because it is cheaper to just buy crushed nests than to spend the time or the runes crushing them. There's too many. That I get. Yeah. Again, other things on this list, crystal keys, more dragon stones, which again, reduction probably good. We'll see where the economy feels about dragon stones, because they're already like 5-6K. It's not crazy for the amount of them that you need, especially with 110 crafting coming out. That is, I'm imagining they're going to be adding in additional ways to train crafting, and so that these will be less necessary. But that is something to think about. And then Onyx Dust, again, Summoning Foci and Cyrenic Scales, which have so many sources that I feel that's fine.
All right. Zamorak, we look at things like the Dark Animika side of the Stone Spirits, Soul Runes again, Blood Runes, Torstals, Dwarf Leads, Lantatimes, and Raw Rocktail. How do you feel about that one, Skillers, on our panel here?
I enjoy fishing, so like,
Yeah.
I'd say go out and fish your rocktails, or buy them for me.
Making
At the one point, I had
fishing
like
great again.
300,000.
We need fish spirits. Coming with 110 fishing to a...
That is a controversial thing to say.
Oh, I know.
That is a controversial thing to say. But I want to address something here right now. The thing that... And we haven't talked about the PVM side of this. We've been just focusing on the mechanics of the tables. And I'll be watching for people in the comments to say we didn't address this, so it's actually here. What the thing people will say is that, well, you're sending us to these bosses that have these drop rates that, we need to effectively kill for hours to get the, the key tiered level 95 loot in most of these cases of the ones we're talking about here. What do you expect us to do in the meantime for our money on this case? Because we have supplies, we have invention charges running that we're putting into this, and with the commons, if they're brought down by that 40 to 60%, what about that side of the equation? And I see this one particularly coming into fruition with Amazon, because I know how heavily Amazon is farmed at the 500% enrage mark. So,
Amazon?
I mean, Zamorak.
Zamorak?
Cool. Again, so hear me out, and I know this is crazy. You drop the Arc Glacial Prophet by half, and it still gives you more in Alex than 90% of bosses. Like, there's like, on a list of like 50 bosses, it's like number 4 or 5, even in half of what it currently is. Like, it's fine. It's gonna be fine.
But what about the people who are out there farming like Zamorak at 500% plus to bring that money in so they can go complete their, party hack collection?
Well, if they want money, go do Solak and get your own damn Grim pages. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, Solak isn't touched here, is he?
No, but again, a lot of his money is in his uniques, which is where it should be, so that's fine.
Which is, again, an interesting thing to look at here. And the reason I mentioned just Zamorak so much is because I know, Bears is not here this week, but he has spent countless hours week after week with his friends there farming Zamorak, whether it be for the vestment sets or the bow of the Last Guardian. For the group, when you look at where all this lands on the table, the things that come out the most on Zamorak are the Orichalcum Salvage, the Onyx Bolt Tips, and the Rune Salvage, followed by the Chaos Relics and Hydrix Bolts, before we get to any of the uniques if we exclude the Bolt.
Again, almost all alchables, right?
Yeah.
And we've, unless you believe that alchables should come into the game at higher volume, I don't have an issue with those particular drops being reduced.
Yeah,
they're all going to turn into gold and nothing else.
And, the thing I wonder with this is maybe, just maybe the discussion should have also focused on an inflation update for how the GP was doing with the gold tax that we got when they changed the GE about 18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
For that, to know, is this,
I think this is addressing,
like, is this, and the reason I say you pair it with that is that because if the inflation is fine on the GE side, then you know that it's not so much an alcohol problem that they're working with. They're finding ways to, as we talked about, make skilling more profitable, which, they were kind of coy about how they were going to do that, right? They never really said what the plan was for that. They still
haven't told us what the plan is.
No, exactly.
In fairness, I think the biggest thing that people point to, or that, like, at least I would point to, when you're looking at the, like, price and prevalence of gold, is bond prices.
Yeah, it's a good measure.
And there's a number of things that were, like, we were coming out of pandemic, and there were other things that were happening at the time that are, like, part of this discussion. But if you look at the prices of bonds, there is a sharp uptick in their price, like remarkably sharp uptick, noticeably, at the release of the Elder God Wars bosses. Like, it is around the time when they started adding huge piles of alkables to the loot tables, largely the loot tables that they've mentioned here, the price of bonds has gone up by, like, 40%.
Yeah, because if we look at May 2021, before God Wars, the first Elder God Wars boss, the bond was 25 mil. If we fast forward to the start of January, it's up to 47. But there was also a time, looking at the bond chart, at the start of March 24, it was at 97.3.
Mm-hmm.
And by July last year, it shot up to 140 in almost a straight up line.
Wow, what came out last summer, Shane?
What was it?
Was Zamorak 2 summers ago? Am I crazy?
Zamorak was 3 summers ago.
Holy smokes. Huh, what did come out last summer? Oh, Wilderness Events.
No, Wilderness Events were 22 as well.
Really?
I feel old.
So what are we looking at?
What did we do last year?
All right, 2024 updates from March to July of last year. March was Easter event with the combat update. Requiem for Dragon? Vorkath? May was Osseous.
Not really. Maybe. Although
June?
It's just Dragon, just Dino Bones.
Was the Daemonheim archaeology site?
Yeah, that's
I don't think any of those have an impact on the bond price. Anyway, sorry for that.
Yeah.
Diversion
some other out market factor. There was some bot farm selling off gold or something happened there. But
yeah. Anyway.
I always thanked him.
Yeah. But that's the Zamorak side of it. I want to thank some Patreon supporters, then we'll get into to Raksha. This week, start of the month, big thank you to all of our $3 and up subscribers. This week, I'd like to thank Alaska, Alvaro L, Amos Reed, Arvids L, Bladecom, Brandon F, Brayton K, Chilbura, Dominic R, Duramax, Golden XP, Guy Lafleur, Hare A, Jade Gizmo, Jason S, Jesse W, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Meriwether, Mongrath, Pernasius, Ricky A, Robbie D, Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, Oasis, Snail Mage, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Ukulele Steve, Woody, Zant, and Zazakon. Big, huge thank you, everybody, for your support. It means the world to us. Head on over to patreon.com/RSBANDB to learn more. You guys voted, and we're going to be doing our next monthly bit on what a construction player-owned house rework would look like in 2025. We'll put everything on the table and see if something like that is needed and what the POH's status is and where that can go. So if you want to hear about that, subscribe over at patreon.com/RSBNB. You get access to an entire back catalog of episodes for as little as $1 a month. You also get the ability to vote each and every month. And of course, with that, you're also helping fund the podcast. Then we have the $3 tier. You get a VIP rank on Discord, a chat channel, and a mention on the podcast at the start of the month, plus access to a high-quality stereo version of the show. Then we also have our insider tier, where you, for $5 a month, get a shout-out on the show each and every week and gain exclusive access to the clips used to make the clip show at the end of the year, plus the RSBANDB Christmas card. And I will say we also have an opening in the RSBANDB Update Experience tier. This is our top tier membership slot. Those people have the option of scheduling a recording of the podcast. You get to come and listen live, and you can sit and just pick our brains about anything, about RuneScape, about the show, anything you like in pre-show. And these people do also get wonderful little mail outs every so often. And I'll say that I'm starting planning for what the 20-year mail-out's going to look like. So if you are interested in being on the receiving end of something like that, we do have a slot available in the experience tier. But the support is truly appreciated. Thanks so much, everybody. Patreon.com/RSBNB. All right, so let's move on from Zamorak now and move over to Raksha. Because I felt like this was a weird one to see here, because you and I are not friends of our favorite purple dinosaur
of the land shark. No.
But I know enough PVM people who say that Raksha's commons, as they are kind of garbage. So this was a bit of an eyebrow raiser.
It seems like it's in a very similar place to stuff like Corp and Nex, where it's like there's a 2 or 3 of the common drops that are like, ooh, let's go. I got the, Onyx Bolt dropper. I got the Cannonball dropper. I got, the thing that is the still worth money. And the rest of it is like, well, all right, I'll take 50K. It'll cover supplies, some supplies. Yeah. I'm very of two minds on these changes, because I think some of these changes are great. For example, the thing they said where they're replacing Spirit Weed and Golden Dragon Fruit seeds, both of which are like 2K or less, with Arbok and Siku seeds. And Arbok seeds are like 51K, and I think Sikus are like 25 or 30. Like, they're replacing low value seeds that have too many drop sources with high value seeds that have fewer drop sources, which is a good balance, strong work. With that said, the commons are already kind of garbage, and they didn't tell us. This is one of the only sets of changes where they didn't tell us what amount they're nerfing anything by. And it could be that it's really variable, and they're just like, yeah, we're just going to knock down some of that salvage drops. We're not going to touch a lot of the other stuff. Maybe that's why. Maybe it just, whoever was doing these changes, because it could have been a separate or a different designer, didn't include that in the information we got. But the list of drops include things like, again, Stone Spirits, Dino Bones, Dragon Hides, Onyx Dust, Crystal Keys, Soul Rings, and Serenic Scales. Some of which have a lot of other drop sources, some of which are created through skilling, some of which are just Onyx Dust, again, there's enough sources of Onyx. Onyxes could use to be a little higher in price, and it's not really going to hurt them. Dino Bones is an interesting one, because that is, there's, other than killing dinosaurs and picking them up yourself, not as many ways to get big volumes of them. For stuff I think they're used in rituals, but if they're not, then just for prayer, because they're a huge amount of XP. Same thing with the Dragon Hides. Again, more crafting XP, which if they remove crafting XP, but they're adding in a new training method anyways in a few weeks afterwards, then I guess that's fine. So the common drop changes are I don't know if they're warranted in this case. I guess it can't hurt for most of the actual drops, but it seems like a weird choice. The changes to the seeds, amazing, and I wish they did more balancing like that, because I believe that's the only thing in this entire list of changes that I've seen so far that is, you would have gotten this drop and instead you got something else. I don't think they changed the ratios or the actual items anywhere else in any drop tables except for here. And this is a good change. So
the best common drops right now out of Raksha outside of,
salvage
skilling supplies. No. Well, I was going to say the best ones are actually the salvage.
Yeah, of course.
and the dinosaur bones.
Yeah.
But like everything else underneath the value of a soul rune is just bad in that regard.
I mean,
so
yeah, it depends on how much Onyx dust you're getting at a time and some of those things. In Raksha's case, it's not a lot. And the Dino Bones are effectively a Raksha unique because, again, they don't drop noted, I believe, elsewhere for the most part. And so if people wanted to use them for things, they're going to go up in price. It's going to be, like trying to use Dagonoth Bones for something or Org Bones. It's like, all right, I mean, yeah, you can, but like they're dropped by one guy who drops one at a time. So like, good luck. Have fun buying them.
Yeah, and with the wiki's estimates of 15 kills an hour, it gives Raksha 52.6 mil profit an hour limit,
including rares. Though.
Including the rares, yeah.
And the rares are where the money comes from for Raksha. So, because Greater Chain and Greater Ricochet are
also Divert.
Also Divert. Divert has
Divert is up to 138 mil. I'm glad I bought it when it was cheap.
Oh yeah, and that got significantly more expensive, which again, good. People found a use for a niche ability. That is excellent.
I use it as a builder at places like Raziel and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, anywhere that you don't need the healing from residents, it's going to be better. So, and again, with the, I'm going to say it on like every show I'm on apparently, but the Necromancy Ghost being kind of overpowered, that is, you don't need the healing as much.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
Okay, welcome back, Tim. I see your message there on that. You just had a bit of a storm internet outage. Any comments on things like Raksha or Zamorak before we move on to the Flash events?
I haven't done those bosses very much, so I don't really have
Okay, fair enough. Have you done Flash events?
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel about them?
So I think that the adjustments are completely reasonable. There's no reason that like the enchantment should still be. I think it's still hovering around like 2 bill, for like Flush Doors and stuff like that. Like that is an obscene amount, and like I've probably done 4,000 or 5,000 of the special events.
Oh my god!
I do like 2 or 3 a day, and I've got like 5 cores total.
Jesus,
so I don't have a problem with them increasing that. Like they're good quality of life updates that I don't think need to be as tightly gate kept.
It is. This is definitely one of those cases of things like a lot of the like rare weapons and things that are just like, I'm going to introduce a cool thing into the game, but only 0.2% of you are going to be able to purchase or use that cool thing. It's just going to exist. And I think it is bad game design to introduce upgrades that are not accessible. And that is an upgrade that is especially not accessible to any number of groups of players. And I
don't have a problem with like, there being a big shiny for you to work towards, especially, like end game. But like that, there's no reason that like, none of those upgrades are, game breaking. Yeah. They frankly need to rework the.
Weren't they put in to be like a WoW passage. Skilling moment?
I think so. And like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like when you get one, you're partying. Amazing. But like the other, 400 times that you go dry in between, it's like.
But why?
Well, that's the last time I got a core.
Yeah.
As an almost counterpoint to that, the weapons, on the other hand, are like, I thought they were way more expensive than they are. They've dropped, I remember them being like 30, 40, 50 mil, and that's where I'm like, okay, yeah, having those be more common trade. No, one of them is literally like 700K, and the other two are like 3 to 4 mil. Like, we don't need more of those. I'm sorry. Like, tier 88s are great. Introducing them and having them cheap in the game is awesome, but like, why are you buffing the drop rate of these in particular instead of, I don't know, like pages from...
The obliteration saw a bit of a blip last summer with Sanctum for its special attack.
That makes sense.
So,
I mean, and whatever the bow is, I think it's the decimation. That special attack is still good. Like, those effects are still fine, but the weapons are already dropping at a rate that is acceptable economically. So they're just going to be like, there's going to be a random tier 88 weapon that for no apparent reason costs 500k. And that's going to be a reality. That, like, everything cheaper than that is only expensive because it's buoyed up by something else, like sewer weapons giving parts. Like, like a little unfortunate. But
my sense is that pretty much everything we've talked about here, if you look at it from the pure economic sense about what it's going to do for the game economy as a whole, it's going to be a good change to make for that reason. Granted, yes, there's going to be a little bit less, money flowing into people's pockets at the end of the day. But I think if we're going to, go down the path of what, players asked them to do on the survey last year, make skilling more profitable, you kind of need to go. Yeah. You kind of need to go it this way. So, Zuck,
looking at the Wilderness Flash event changes, though, before we move on, because this does bring up a question I want to ask you guys, because obviously the things they're changing, salvage makes sense, magic logs have been an issue for a while, there's many of them. Bet criminals are a skilling item, should come from skilling, I feel fine with that. The ones that are interesting to me are bones and ashes drops, because they're in, I feel like, such a weird place right now between being used for, like, rituals and, like, used on the Ectofuntus to, like, get outfits versus, or used in, like, incense more so for the sake of ashes, versus, like, actually being used for prayer. But they're an item like charms that only come from PVM. And is this an attempt to make them, like, what's the purpose of lowering specifically bone and ashes drops as a drop rate?
That's a very good question.
You're doing the same thing
when you look at that, because I feel like we can. I feel like we should separate them onto the side, because I feel like it's trivial to collect bones nowadays with Grimoire.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we literally have 30,000 basic bones between my bank and the group storage, because Pern dropped all of his in there.
Yeah.
Like, big bones for sitting on, like, 10k. Like, we have a lot of them.
But the thing is, when you look at the, like you said, the ashes, maybe it does make sense to, have them available in the flash events, because they are, primarily used to make the incense and whatnot. And I think if you're training prayer, you are either going to be using on an altar the infernal ashes or the best kind of dragon bone you can get, or just powdering things. So other tiers of ashes, I think you can put rightly in the skilling supply column.
But again, they don't come from skilling, so you don't buoy up a skilling economy by decreasing the, like, sources of them, and they're not at, like, an unacceptable price for the most part. Most of the ashes are okay, at least. So that one's weird to me.
You don't skill to get them. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like, it made sense when it was, you're getting the ashes and the bones, and it was just for prayer. So it was like combat for combat bonus, or not bonus, but benefit. But now that it's also got a skilling aspect, it definitely complicates the equation.
Which events, by the way, do drop the ashes from the flash events?
All of them.
All of them.
So the flash events, they just drop the sacks of wieldy rewards and the sacks of very wieldy rewards. I know we haven't been eligible to do any of those flash events in a number of months, but yeah, it's just, they all drop them.
Okay.
Yeah, the basic sack of wilder rewards has a looks like chance to drop 30 to 50 infernal ashes or 5 to 10 wyvern bones. So, like, it's not.
I mean, that doesn't matter then, because
wyvern bones are prayer potion supplies as well, and those are incredibly expensive.
Yeah,
because they're it's like those. I really wouldn't nerf unless you plan to put another source into the game, because there's not that many.
Yeah, we all love killing wyverns.
I mean, skeletal wyverns are easy.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay. Zuck minions. Anyways. And the Undercity, they only changed the alkables there.
Yep.
I
feel
feel
fine about it.
Yeah, and, that entire business in itself is fine because it's only salvage, and Onyx Pulse, it's not going to completely change the wave profitability on Zuck and whatnot and the people around. So
yeah. Again, on the whole, they focused on bosses that were problems, right? Like the Glacior, to some degree Carapac, Zamorak for sure. These are places that were dropping too much loot. I mean, doing a full Zuck run is 20 minutes to get 6 mil loot. But like a lot of these were probably dropping a little too much knockables. So on the whole, I'm not mad about the changes. There's very few things in here that I'm like, ooh, that's likely to cause a problem, given that they don't have updates planned to fix it. Because a lot of it, they do already have a plan that I'm like, yeah, I can see why this is not going to be an issue.
And I think the thing is that like the through line for this is if you look at the the Grand Exchange charts and the trade volumes in particular for any of these items here, you'll see that they are in oversupply. And the question is then, like I said earlier, is this a GP inflation update fix, or is this something to do with making skilling more profitable in that case? And I mean, if you're addressing it from either of those perspectives, you're on the right path in my view. And every boss that we've gone through, you're still going to have reasons to want and to do this. I think the one that people are going to be the most upset about is probably Zamorak. In that regard, and the niche people will be upset about.
I think Zamorak was the most overpowered one, though. And the people who are farming Zamorak are the ones least in need of money, so they might be vocally angry about it. But I feel like that's one that is of all these actually least problematic. I have no issues with any of the things they're changing out of Zamorak, versus all the others. I have at least something like, "Ooh, are you sure?"
Yeah. Okay. And this goes to a wider thing that we were going to open this up with here, and we debated, do we open the show with this or do we end with this? And I think we decided to end with it to keep the economic discussion, to keep the numbers discussion of things that are measurable in the forefront. But the bigger question is that, where do the microtransaction items come into this? Where do things like Proteans fall into influencing all this? And again, we go to the skillers, Tanis and Tim.
So I think that
feel about this.
The changes that have been proposed so far are, like you said, we're on the right path. Like, can there be some adjustments? Of course. But I think that Proteans are an issue because it is replacing raw materials that skillers are, they're putting into the economy. Well, guess what? If you got a stack full of Proteans before, you go training, you're not going to go out and, just buy 10,000 planks for fun. No.
Right.
Like, you're going to use your Proteans. And I think that is affecting the demand side. I think that there's an opportunity to still have, MTX in terms of like other avenues, like the pulse cores and everything, where it's not actually using the materials or a replacement for it. It's just increasing the speed that you're doing it. But I think that in order for it to be a holistic solution, or at least Band-Aid, I think that we need to come at it from the demand side as well, instead of just all supply side.
There have been people who have said that very same thing about real life as well.
We need to make more use case.
Yeah,
I have done three main accounts in the last. My main obviously, and 2 in the last 5 years of like leveling an account and getting most of or all of a quest cape on an account. And on both of those accounts, I got to pick like 3 or 4 skills that I just didn't want to train, and I didn't have to on my way to max. Like I just got enough between not even just Proteans, but like dummies, lamps, stars, like
dummies too. Yep.
No, but like the stuff that they've been doing a lot of recently, especially like the smoldering lamps and stars that like use up your bonus XP. So effectively, the stars you've gotten previously that used to be like, oh yeah, stars are worth more XP because they're not direct XP, they are bonus you actually train for. Well, now you give lamps that convert those higher XP previous stars into direct XP, and it's like a lot of those things were very, very powerful in terms of just like making you not need to play the video game.
Well, have you seen the gobs of XP that can come if you get like a Protean or a dummy processor?
Yeah, well, and again, like counterpoint to all this, I don't really love training some skills in particular, especially at low levels.
But,
Hunter. And like, being able to skip one makes me happy. It's not good for game health, but it makes me happy. So like, I guess there's a counterpoint there, but go ahead, Tannis. I'm so sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, to me, this is all due because we couldn't have a big boy and girl discussion about what people really want and what a market is, and just the reason we have proteins and all that is because they had to come up with a way that some players would accept that other players wanted to buy some XP. Pure and simple.
Oh, so you're saying if they just let you direct purchase lamps instead of, having
they
like
wouldn't have
game, excuse
fucked
me?
up the economy. And it's like giving people a clean place to do needles, a clean needle exchange. They're gonna fucking do it. So like, why? To me, it's all because of that, and it could all be fixed with that. But because we have this crabs in a barrel mentality, for whatever reason, your XP somehow affects me.
That guy skipped the thing, and he bought his XP. But he has the same stats as me. So like, that makes me angry.
Yeah, and
that
that's why
other
we can't
guy
have
has what I have.
So, and
Yeah.
you deal with the economic consequences.
That
I
we're
feel
now
like-
down the line, and we don't want to talk about like, hey, so like, MTX was introduced in an unhealthy way because we had to do it piecemeal to get the company to be able to make the money in a way that's
and they
reasonable.
tried nerfing XP that would come in, each and every
They did.
day with the removal of the lamps from the daily challenge system when they brought a hero pass out. That didn't go over well.
Yeah,
So
but
I mean, if it's an
but the problem
They've done a
is,
few rounds of reducing the total amount of XP given. Like, again, promos are still powerful, but like, if you compare to like when I did my first quest alt, the amount of XP that character got per key significantly higher than what we're getting right now. Like, they have nerfed it a couple of times. It's still an issue though.
and
What I would like to... Oh, you have
go
chance.
ahead, Tim.
What I would like to see, and this is probably more transparency than we'll unfortunately ever get to see, but I want to see an Excel sheet where it's got graphs of when different promotions are coming out, like the Phoenix lamps or the Proteans and stuff, and I want to see when a new boss with a bunch of alcohols come in, like how much money is coming from alcohol, like what is the impact, like why are we targeting these specific items? Just instead of being like, oh, it's for game health, like give me some reasoning.
My question is, can they be transparent about that? Because that has been the whole shtick recently, is that we want to approach this and we want, to be transparent with you guys, and we want to develop the game in concert with you guys. But is there that much of a move and a cornering of the market that they can't provide that information without it being exploited?
Well, I don't see how it would be exploited.
Yeah.
Like it's
I
literally
think I would be so terribly curious, and based on other data that they've given us, I am certain they have the ability to know how much XP comes into the game a day through items that were at any point Treasure Hunter exclusive, be they dummies, Proteans, whatever, versus how much comes into the game versus how much total XP is gained in any given skill on a given day. Like, I think that is data that somebody at Jagex could likely have or already has. Like, and I am somewhat concerned that in our case
they can't share it because
possible,
it would be too shocking for the community.
It is damning. Yes, It is concerning the amount of XP, and I do wonder. Again, the game functions fine. Like on an Ironman, it's not like I gain XP. I feel like terribly.
The game is
slower.
lovely on an Ironman.
Yeah.
Actually, if I look at the number of hours I've spent, my XP is probably coming in significantly so. But again, that is the literal intent of the game mode. So that, again, I'm not upset about that. But like, right. Like until I see those numbers, my assumption is that it's bad, man. Especially for some skills. Like, I think dungeoneering and agility, like, ooh, Silverhawk feathers. Ooh, training agility without Silverhawk feathers is such a very different experience. This is the first time I've run laps outside of old school in a while. And I don't mind it. I never minded agility necessarily, but like, it is, like, I would be so interested to see the percentage of agility XP that comes in the day that is from Silverhawks versus not.
And to bring this all back to the discussion of drop tables, the reason we're talking about this is because the XP is the other side of the equation, right? We talked about the money side in terms of what it could mean for inflation, but what does this also mean in terms of the skilling supplies that are there, right? And that it produces.
So I think there's a distinction there, Shane, about like, because the economy affects everybody, and you know, I'm adamant that my XP does not affect you. That whatever value, the value of XP is put on by the person themselves. You can put a monetary value. Jagex has. You can buy a bond. You know what I mean? But that value is, and it doesn't. Yeah. I'm not affecting. Yeah. I can't affect the greater game as a whole, but with my XP.
Yeah. So, my opinion on this is absolutely that the changes are good, and MTX probably needs to be scaled back, reasonably speaking, as much as we, like, you have to do that so carefully because it is so much of their income, and, like, there's so many things at play. I'm going to devil's advocate this so hard, and actually, like, by looking at the things that are just, like, in these drop tables that are skilling supplies, like, that could be replaced with proteins that give XP, right? Like the amount of raw XP being dropped on the drop tables. I see royalty hide, I see dragonstone, so we've got crafting. I see crystal keys, which is some seeds, kind of, but mostly alkaballs and some runes. Crushed nests. Again, seeds, raw rocktails. Again, seeds. A lot of stone spirits, but like those aren't actually XP. They're literally money in you have to mine to get this money form. There's not actually, as it happens, a lot of skilling supplies. I mean, they're reducing magic logs from Wilderness Flashman. They're not pulling a lot of skilling supplies out of the game with this update. As much as the community response that I have seen has been like, hey, so like MTX is a problem. My devil's advocate for this is, yeah, those same exact people have been saying MTX is a problem for everything. Are they just seeing MTX as the problem in this? When realistically, they're not actually pulling that many skilling supplies out of the game with these changes. Again, with a crafting update coming in a few weeks, where all this stuff that's crafting XP is worth nothing. And a farming system that is currently so broken because farming is the fastest skill to train in the game for no apparent reason. Like, or the easiest skill, like in terms of XP per time.
What crafting update are you talking about?
They're putting 110 crafting into the game. Am I crazy? Is that not happening?
That's not happening till later this year.
I think it's in August.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like they're just like every other skilling method up to this point. Like we've got enough dragonstones in the economy to last us until August. Like we better. Like I'd be very surprised, right? Like I'm assuming that they will add an update and change a lot of the crafting like methods and available, because a lot of the problem is like dragonstones are how you train from like 99 to 120 right now. I'm assuming that method will go away, and same thing with like royal dragon hides, right? Like the skilling supplies they're taking out like my devil's advocate point for this is like they're removing raw rocktails because we needed cooking XP and seeds.
I'm very
And
happy to
crushed
see
nest.
anytime magic logs get removed from drop tables, or at least brought down.
Yes, magic logs are pretty bad outstanding, but like
Yeah.
that is like 3 items across the full common drop table of like 5 bosses with multiple modes, and like the dungeons leading up to them in the case of Zuck and the Undercity.
So,
Like
with this,
they're
then
reducing
I'm
alchemy.
led to
That's great.
conclude that this is
But, like-
primarily an update for, just GP inflationary health. Because if it was to make skilling more profitable, I think you'd see bigger pulls on the skilling supplies.
Yes,
But they
and I
do this
think
with-
that the MTX argument specifically, the point I would make is that they're being made by people who have an issue with MTX,
Yeah.
and that this isn't actually an MTX issue. Because we're not like, yeah, we're going to pull these out when we should actually be pulling out proteins. Pulling out proteins doesn't impact this at all. It doesn't make most of these costs go up. None of these things are going to get terribly more expensive without proteins. As an example.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to kind of, shoot through that because, you can look at the MTX
Well, it
stuff
increases the demand.
and say where the XP comes in from that. And there's tons, but I feel like that's an entirely different conversation, right?
It is a problem. It is an unrelated problem to this update. People are using this update to bring it up again because it is a problem and it does need to be addressed. And if we're not vocal, it won't get addressed. And I get that. Again, devil's advocate.
Yeah.
But,
Okay,
yeah.
Tanis, last word? It sounded like you were going to say something, so I just went to...
I think it could affect the demand of, right? Like, it's not that the proteins in of themselves do anything, but if they're not there, then you'll have to use something else, right? Like you'll have to use an actual material.
Yeah.
So that's it. But the other thing I wanted to say is, it seems like they do take a pass a few months, few weeks ahead of time before these expansions to reduce things. I think we've seen this before. The more we were talking about it, the more I was like, wait a minute. I think they did this with wood cutting. I think they did this with
wood spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I actually think that this is in a microcosm. Maybe it's not, but when you look at it all together, I think it shows the framework of how they're actually addressing it.
Yeah. And, that just pushes me even more and more to the GP inflation health side. Tim, any last words from you?
No, I think that, at the end of the day, they're there to make money. They're making a game that, we're paying money for, and we have options on whether or not we want to pay on some of those things. So, like our group Ironman, like we don't have to have any of the MTX. It's great. We're really enjoying it. But you know what? MTX is fine sometimes. And I think that's, as a community, we have to accept that some people are going to play the game differently than we do.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. I always go back to the figure of somebody who, only has an hour or two a week to play. MTX is I think a perfect helper there. But that's the thing a lot of people will disagree with. But I just want to touch in on the May schedule for what we got coming this month. We have on May 12th this game health update that we've just been talking about, as well as augmented rune crafting and thieving, which, as I read from the post here, this update, formerly known as Skilling Profitability, is all about empowering skilling-focused players with fresh tools and opportunities in augmented rune crafting and thieving. Are the two sides. So I'm going to assume that there's some linkage there between skilling profitability and those, which is going to be interesting because they're going to be providing effectively how we have the Rhodomatic, they're going to be providing tools like that for rune crafting and thieving.
Interesting.
as well as,
does
of
that-
course,
Streamline already.
new
Well,
perks and components as well, which I think touch in on archaeology amongst other things. So,
Well, I'm not mad about anything with archaeology. You know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that goes into any of these, into rune crafting or thieving that we talked about in the drop tables was really like, what, soul runes?
Blood runes, soul runes, blood runes, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, thieving is an interesting one because thieving has always been like a little bit of profit on top of training. And I wonder if I wonder if the real update that's coming with these is actually new perks. Because they've mentioned new perks, I think, right?
yes.
And I wonder if we're going to get stuff that is kind of like the divination options where you've got like, you can get 0 XP but get like double loot. Or you can get, you can sacrifice your loot to get, like, I wonder if there's going to be perks that give you a chance to have those effects. Or
I
those
know
kinds
one of them
things.
has a smaller chance of making so you excavate an already completed artifact. That's one of the archaeology ones that you could consider.
Oh, very interesting and
Yeah.
very overdue because that is those triple artifact spots are kind of brutal sometimes.
So,
Interesting.
There's that, and then there's also a farming mini strike coming as well with that same update. A bunch of farming little things that we'll talk about when that arrives. We all know how everybody loves that skill here at RSBANDB, right? Nod along, everyone.
Woo.
Nod along. Yes. But we also have the player support roadmap update, which you questioned. Well, boy, when do we get a player support roadmap update, right? So that's here, and effectively what they're talking about this is a complete change in the way that they do support. So they highlight that they've already done things around chat spam, providing you an update to your mailbox of whenever you report something to show when it's done. And what they're also doing is introducing a new single point of contact for support that they're looking at rolling out throughout the month of April here. With that, and one of the things that came from this is that if we look at a specific post that was done by Mod Hooli on the Reddit, the current plan for this single point of contact when they do chat support is an AI chatbot.
Yeah.
I know we've all had
Like-
experiences with those.
In having worked in a support industry before, there are definitely a good number of requests that can be either entirely handled by a well-trained bot or can be directed to an agent with giving some context before the call or chat is connected. There is a legitimate use case for that in a support setting. I just don't want it to be the main source, which it doesn't sound like.
It doesn't sound like they're doing that, so that's important.
Yeah.
And it also goes with this. There's going to be a newly updated place to see the status of all your tickets and manage all the queries as well on that. But when you get into some of the other things that they're talking about doing, they're looking at adding in faster response times in terms of the live chat options that will be available. They said, I think they were going to be having people available from 2 p.m. GMT until 10 p.m. GMT that you could actually talk to live for that, which I find very, very interesting in this day and age, as well as increasing the availability for people to use the new security offerings that are on place with Jagex accounts, because apparently, even though we have the move to Jagex accounts, people are still not using things like two-factor authentication and strong passwords. So, I feel like maybe that's another thing we need to talk about at some point, two-factor authentication on that. Also, account hijacking detection, so you can get notified when your account is hijacked and locked. I know you wanted to comment on this one, Thaxi. This is coming this summer.
I mean, I have I've had a couple experiences with RuneScape support, and universally they are bad. So I hope a lot of these changes are genuinely helpful and make it easier to get a hold of people. The AI actually has me worried as much as anything else, because the way their current system works is you basically go through a series, it's a tree, basically. You go through a support tree. You go to the support tab, and you try to identify what your issue falls under, and it sends you to an appropriate support article. And 2 of the articles have a contact form at the bottom for that specific issue. So I think it's lost items and something else. And everything else, no matter how complicated or simple your issue is, it will lead you to the same forms. And if those aren't helpful, it's useless. And I'm really worried that they're going to put an AI chatbot that's just really good at sending you those useless links and not actually allowing you to talk to a person about an issue you're having. Because getting a hold of lost item requests or having an account locked, those kind of things, I wasn't able to lock my accounts when they got hacked, and I became aware of it. There was nothing I had the ability to do during that time frame, because there was no way to get a hold of support in a reasonable time frame. And actually hearing back from somebody is usually a multi-day process, typically a multi-day process. And the speed was not good. The ability to find where to contact people was not good. And then finding something that's just a lot of results. The only way to get a hold of people was Twitter, because you had an individual issue that you couldn't solve that. You had to literally ask them publicly on Twitter saying, hey, I'm me. This is my issue. Help. And it seemed like sometimes they responded to those. And by sometimes I mean a lot of the time. That actually seemed to be, for whatever reason, the most effective way to get a hold of them for weird issues. I had a buddy who wasn't on Twitter, who, this man's a dingbat. I love them, but a complete dingbat. Did not get a song unlocked during Nomad's Elegy when you're doing the boss fight. There's a song that unlocks in that, and I don't know what he did. If he closed his game client to skip a cutscene, or clicked out of something tick perfect because PVM human, and just what happened. But he did not get the song unlocked, and he was this one song away from comp for a year and a half, because he had no way to contact player support, and it was just there was nothing that anybody could do to help this man. And it's that sucks. What do you even do about that? We don't even know, because we never figured it out. I don't even know if he still plays. But there's stuff that support was so difficult to contact, and unique issues were something that you couldn't get addressed without directly messaging or knowing a JMod, or directly messaging support on Twitter, of all places. It's just, the support was not good, and the way to access support and the information they were trying to give you was not often relevant to your problem. And it was genuinely, it felt like it was set up to prevent botters and other people from challenging their bans. And they were just getting too many appeals from people who shouldn't have been appealing. And that's, RuneScape being RuneScape as well, but also that real people not being able to solve their problems was an unfortunate fallout from that never got addressed. And
so on that, from that perspective, it sounds like what we have here is basically a complete revamp of how they want to go about this, if they're able to, pull it off.
If they're able to do it and they make real change, it's going to be a really significant improvement. My comparison, I'm going to bring in a different MMO. We're doing it. Let's go. Guild Wars 2. There's a fucking email address. You send them an email to their support team, and less than 2 hours later, every single time I've done this, I've gotten a response from a person fixing my issue. with
eating
no
them.
question,
Really?
no problems.
Wow.
They track how many times you do it. So like if you were abusing the systems, like I unpackaged a box and I picked a medium coat instead of a light one, so it didn't fit the character I was trying to use it on. And I messaged them like, hey, like I messed up. Can you fix it? And they just fixed it. It just, yeah, sure. Don't do this like 8 times, please. We will stop doing this for you eventually. They just fixed it. This is like the game is smaller than RuneScape by a factor of 10. So there's that to consider, but it is also a matter of like it's a huge MO community, and somebody just got back to me immediately with the answer to the problem that I had. It's like the fact that exists and the RuneScapes has been so awful, and has been so awful for 20 years. Like this is not a new issue. It's genuinely atrocious. I really hope that they can fix it because the tools are out there to fix it, and there is no precedent for Jagex support being anything other than, excuse me, kind of hot garbage. Sorry, but like it's just I never have had or heard of anybody having a good experience.
I think it's important to highlight, where it was in your experience here with that.
Oh yeah, I'd kind of effectively quit the game, and when I came back, I was even more ready to quit the game because they gave me like one set of gear back, and I mean, my account got effectively cleaned, right? Nah.
And the only reason you're playing now is the group Ironman, because still you you never got all that stuff back.
I mean, I've kept up with trim. My main account still I need to go do clues. I have the clues bank to get Globetrotter. I just don't want to.
Right.
Like I still have trim. Like I still play, but I don't play like I used to, and I do not have the combat equipment to play like I would. And, it's not a good setup. So,
yeah. They also, and, all these things go in: account hijacking detection, improved ban appeal processing, and then fall this year is when the live chat comes alongside the anti-cheating team's real-world trading focus. And then finally, as well, later this year, Jagex account secure recovery, which they say is them exploring ways to enhance the Jagex account recovery with improved verification. Potential things could include recognizing trusted devices and sessions, supporting passkeys for passwordless logins, or sending push notifications to alert you to new logins. And I mean, like those are nice on paper, but they still who.
Again, it's all good.
Like nobody in this podcast here has probably used a passkey except me, or knows what a passkey is. I'm familiar with them. Okay,
it's a physical device you use to log into accounts.
No, it's a little bit different than that. That's like a second factor token. Passkeys are things that can effectively run off your phone and provide a passwordless login. You still use the 2FA with that, but.
Again, a lot of these are like just features that should be in, like the hijacking detection and those kind of things. And that kind of stuff, I do have faith that they will actually implement. And being able to lock your account, all that stuff is good. Like, I am excited for the reporting outcome side of things. I am excited that if I report somebody for botting, I will know if they get banned for it. That is amazing. And a lot of this stuff is cool and important and useful, and I really hope that they change like the live chat and the actual like support itself. I hope gets updated. A lot of the rest of this is just good. I am being able to lock your account should you choose to do so for any number of reasons, I think is just a good feature to have.
Yeah.
I like that in the reveal video, like that they mentioned the stats from the player survey and everything, which like really rooted it and like, hey, these are things that like
you said you want.
Like, yes, and we hear you, and here's what we're doing about it. And also, like they gave some like benchmarks about, like, okay, we're getting our response time underneath 48 hours, and we're looking to get it underneath, I think it was 24. Like I like that they're giving themselves, specific goals and like when they're looking to hit them, and it gives me more confidence.
31% were satisfied with Jagex customer support is a yikes number.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the transparency, and
yes,
Like that goes a long way.
Acknowledge that we are all aware this is an issue that you should be addressing. Thank you.
I think the biggest thing that came from me is the Jagex account specific updates that they're working on in tandem to this, which is world hopping and character switching on mobile, Steam, and within the Jagex launcher.
Mm-hmm.
You know how painful that is.
I saw that. Man, I don't log into my main account on mobile anymore. If there's something that I want to do on my main, I do it on my computer. I haven't logged into my main. I was traveling once in November and I changed it. It is such a pain to literally juggle apps on my phone to not time out my session to log into RuneScape on the website, but also access Authenticator. It is a problem.
Authenticator, password manager, back to the RuneScape app. Yeah.
For anybody who is actually untech savvy, or for it's a pain to do it, especially with an actually long, complicated password to log in every time you do this too. That you have to completely log into your Jagex account again. You can't just change characters. You actually have to re-log into your Jagex account every time, and it sends you an email every time you swap characters. It's hey, you have a new login to your Jagex. What do you mean?
Yeah, then you start sweating. You're that was me.
Well,
right?
It was me. I know it was me, but
I know.
Stop
I
it.
got the email. Yeah.
So nice.
Also looking at
Good
Jagex
change.
launcher compatibility for Linux and elevated rights management for the
Not my
people
problem, but
who
good for the people
want
who have that problem.
Jagex launcher and accounts reliability, whatever that means. Jagex and character account management improvements, and safely transfer display names between characters within your own Jagex account.
All cool stuff.
So B&B Shane could become Shane12088 one day.
It's true. You could change your mains.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I mean, it's especially nice for people like content creators, right, that actually have their own unique use. There's a lot of stuff like that, I think, that is.
Right, because you risk losing it if you do it the traditional way.
Mm-hmm.
Even for only 15, 20 seconds, yeah. You are literally racing against somebody checking to see if you're swapping it right now.
But, overall, I hope they're able to deliver on this because, we have heard countless times the amount of failures of the Jagex support system, and your story tells that. I've heard it from tons and tons of other people, and I've had people ask me, Shane, do you know any tricks to get this resolved faster? And I, out of all the the respect of the JMods we've had on the show, I realize that they don't do these account support requests. So the answer to that is always no, and it's not right to ask a content development JMod to look into something like that. But I have been asked countless times for something like that, and it would be nice to get to a point where that doesn't become a recurring thing. So. All right, what have we been doing in game? And we'll start with you, of course, Tim. Welcome to the Group Ironman specific section of the show. And I guess I could ask you, what were your first thoughts about being, did I approach you or did you approach me to join us?
I think you put out a feeler, and I responded.
Yeah, you pinged.
Okay, right. I did ask the Patreon people, right? And you got back. So how has it been? Are you happy? Where did you start out with looking at this? How do you feel now?
Oh, I love it. Group Ironman.
My
I'm
Ironman
trying to
group,
think of-
awful.
Yeah, the actual people in the group are terrible, but besides that, I'm trying to think of how to word this, but I feel like Group Ironman is almost a closer knit clan where you're almost forced to have interactions, whereas in a clan, you can just kind of be like, oh hey, how's it going? Good. But in a Group Ironman, there's active cooperation. Maybe not necessarily all in game at the same time, but you're working as an actual team. And I there's just something so organic and fun.
I see.
that.
Every time one of these guys gets a level, and if I'm online, they'll get a grats.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it.
Big ups. Yeah, it's just it's so fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, you know, you're celebrating, you know, everything. You know, you can help raise people up where they, you know, oh hey, I need some, you know, logs to work on fletching. I got you, bud. You know, it's
I feel like what you're describing is the way RuneScape is kind of meant to be played.
Yes.
If you have the people and you know don't need the GE and you don't need the MTX.
Are you telling me that my multiplayer online role playing game is more fun with multiplayer?
Yes.
Yeah, but only to a point. There's a point of diminishing fucking return.
Where I don't want to deal with because anymore.
It's like when I was introduced to RuneScape by my brother and sister, and like when we first started playing, you know, it was like 5 or 10 years of us just like we were always playing together, you know, and it was, you know, I mean, we didn't have any, you know, we were poor ass noobs, so like, you know, we were helping each other out doing basically group Ironman, and it was this type of fun, you know, and it's just nice to have that back.
My first day playing RuneScape, I went and farmed feathers at the Lumbridge Chickens for a buddy who was doing fletching. I remember this. You know, that account is long lost, but 100%.
What are you currently working towards, Tim? What would you say your big meta goals are right now, if you have any?
So I'm currently working on divination, trying to unlock invention. I still got the other skills to do, but I've been trying to grind out some div. And then I really just like want to knock out some quests and, you know, just take the time, you know, really dive into them, enjoy them, not rush through it, just have fun. And I'm really looking forward to doing that soon.
Okay, fair enough. And you know, one thing we always say here, and this, I think this is what made our group successful. We talked about it last week with the update, but again, you know, this week we don't put any pressure on anybody to meet any, you know, sort of time commitment or anything to that effect. The only reason we are doing competitive is because we wanted the limitations from it and the feature set that it brought. And you know, I think given that and where we've landed, we've all meshed very, very well together on that. You know, and like Thaxi said, if there's ever anything that's needed, you know to ask for it and whatnot. So
we came in on the same page that we're going to play as long as it's fun and like as much as we want to, and that's exactly how it is and should be, and it has stayed that way, and that's worked well.
Yeah,
very well.
So. I look forward to seeing what you think about the smithing and the crafting side of that invention grind, Tim. I'm still doing the crafting one myself.
Smithing
one is
like,
fun.
Yeah, like it's not bad. It's, you know, gathering the ores and stuff, but the crafting, oh my gosh.
I mean, the crafting, the nicest thing is that like we're getting to the point where Pernasius and I do not need crafting supplies anymore. We're getting to the point where it's boostable to hit 99 and we can make what we need. And so we're getting to the point where we can start funneling a lot of those supplies down. Like I have been doing a lot of the like prep work stuff for farming art glacier, basically for the crafting supplies that are going away. Ironically.
Tie-in.
And, you know, we'll be able to shove some of that stuff towards, like, you and Shane, and then, you know, shove the necklaces back at me to make into porters, and then shove those back at you for smithing and for archaeology and fishing and all the whatever else.
I just cut like another 500 or so gems the other night for Pern to do stuff with. So there's that.
I will be putting in thousands over the next several weeks per day. Probably
that is appreciated, and another thing that we've had going on is our group summoning focus, which I just took all that raw bird meat and made all those spirit terror birds that you needed.
Thank you
for that. And what was the grand total of that? How many thousands were there?
Exactly 5,000 were in storage, and I have deconned or put the first 1,500, 2,000, something like that, through the deconstructor already, and turned the powerful components from them into the last of what I needed for my divine vacuum, which I am currently using to make divine charges, because I know Pern is dangerously low, and I am not doing super hot myself. So, like, all this stuff is the through line.
And I got 64 summoning out of it, as well as the summoning pet at 234,000 XP.
Wow.
Spoon.
So that's mainly been my week this week, was the summoning stuff, the summoning pet, and getting everything in line to get dive, to do my own PVM dive, I guess you could say, with that regard. So yesterday was Daughter of Chaos and the Civil War mini quests. And tonight will be Succession. And, you know, I was wondering how this would feel back when this quest came out, Daughter of Chaos. And the combat of what they did there, specifically with the encounters, first making it safe, making it not rely on your gear, and then providing the option, if you want it to get simpler after a failure,
make it easier,
is the way I think we should be doing combat quests, or quest for combat going forward. I don't necessarily know if you need to go with the full set of ability stuff and make it so that you don't have to rely on your gear, but I definitely think the safe aspect of it and lowering the fight difficulty is a good accessibility thing, just to make it so that for people who want to play the story, can do that. Because I spent 2.5 hours this past week on Old School, pushing through the Sins of the Father final fight in the Vampire Quest series there. And, you know, that wasn't a safe fight. Had to pay 50,000 times every time, 50,000 GP every time I died to unlock the coffer. Plus, you know, all the supplies and whatnot in terms of, you know, fish and potions and what have you, when what I really wanted to do was to just get to the end point of that storyline. So as somebody who has experienced that side of it, and the, you know, it's a high level account. It's about level 105 combat on the group Iron, but still it's not like a maxed out character that can just, you know, walk through the combat encounters. The way that quest was done is appreciated for that. So we'll see how I feel about Raziel and Vorkath eventually.
Just take a think about, you've got Sins of the Father on the one hand, and that's pretty bad, but tonight, you get to experience, and I'm so sorry to all of our Jagex writer friends for this, Adrastea's song, because, oh boy, it's not better the second time.
It's not better.
It's not better the second time.
I was not a fan of that quest series going in, and I can't, you know, say how much I paid attention to the lore of it this time around, given the fact it was relatively recent.
Oh, sure.
So... But
it's only like 3-4 quests, right? Like, that's the other thing, is the whole like Age of Chaos.
It's 2 quests plus 3 mini quests that
quickly.
are tiny. Like, the biggest thing was waiting for the one flash event that I had to do for the mini quests.
Yeah,
because I already had the Plower Panther things and the gross misconduct achievement. So, but that's me.
Yeah, excellent.
Tanis. Or no, we'll do you last, because I know you've been doing Dragon Wilds still. We'll do the Dragon Wilds one last. How about you, Thaxi?
A little more straightforward. I've done an exceptional number of Reapers, because I had 7 Reaper scrolls saved up, and so I've done like 5 extra Reapers in the last week. Finally got some of my gear upgraded to with like the Greater Ensouled Cloth at Thelma this week. I've got top and bottom up to tier 80 finally. Oh, look at me with my big defensive numbers. Got my Necromancy Zuck cape sorted out. We got...
You kind of winged that, didn't you?
It took me 2 attempts.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But I mean, I went in with a big pack pig and, you know, a number of supplies, and a kind of understanding that I was going to be okay. I was a little worried about some of the challenges, and I realized I didn't have to do it perfect. I just had it to live. So
yeah,
that went
you're not
fine.
unlocking hard mode.
I actually got to Zook with a perfect run the first time, and I died to Pizza Fizz, and I'm a little salty about it because I forgot. My movement was not good moving between pizza slices, and I literally just died to the fire.
How did I assume the kiln and whatnot was very doable as well then?
I did the kiln afterwards. I thought it would be funny.
Oh, okay.
And yes, the kiln was very doable. I missed the elite speedrun time for the kiln by 21 seconds. I'm also a little salty about that. We'll have to go back in there, obviously, for the other capes. But yeah, that was
Necromancy
fine.
one's most important just because it opens up that Death Skulls rotation.
Yeah, and I've been having so much fun knocking times off my personal best at bosses this last few days with Death Skulls. So did that. Big group updates. We got Grace of the Elves sorted. I finally got the level to boost for that with Invention. So we have one of those going, and then I'm a little over halfway fortunate component-wise to another one. So that'll be good. That way, if I fall asleep with it, we don't have to have that. I think that might have actually been around last week.
Yeah,
we got a couple Amulets of Souls, and I have the points for another Reaper assignment, for another Hydrix plus change. So need to figure out what we're doing with that. But this week has been a lot of oh hey, they're nerfing the bosses. I ought to do some PVM.
Let's go get what we need supply wise, and that was my reason to go get Dive, because I need to take the week and a bit whatever at Care back normal and just get whatever I can out of that before it goes.
And then the other thing I've done this week is obviously with the divination. I got the vacuum sorted a couple of days ago, and have been really enjoying how good the vacuum is. Things I did not remember immediately. You have to right-click the vacuum and configure it so that it eats memories and turns them into things, because it does not automatically turn them into energy. It wants to give you the option to turn them in for XP, which is useless. So, vacuum is significantly more useful now that I don't have to run to the energy rift, and I'm able to make a divine charge with aura and Mustbelt every 25 to 30 seconds, which is solid.
Damn.
Yeah. So we will be set for charges from here on, because it is so fast to go farm them. I will be filling generators and charge packs for everybody as they become available. And that's my video game, is a lot of AFKing. I put archaeology on hold as much as I really want darkness and to have the requirements for the last few quests and things. I'm stalling at 81 archaeology, and we will resume that after the nerfs come through, when 5 mech Glacier is no longer the ridiculous loot pinata it currently is. I acknowledge this is an issue. At that point, we definitely need, just as a general note, we need to get the group Croesus going. We need to group nights we need to keep going with Dungeoneering, but we need to get at least we need to get some trial runs on even 2 or 3 man Croesus.
Yeah, I think that'll be doable. I need to get some wood cutting and fishing for that to happen, and then we can lead into that.
Among the people in the instance, if our average levels are about 70, and I know Parnassus and I are both reasonably far enough above that I think we're good. If we can get 3 or 4 people with 200-ish total levels between everybody who can come for the gathering skills, I think we're good. I think that's enough. So I think we're on board, and that is going to be a lot of money and a lot of supplies and a lot of charms.
Yeah,
if we can
it'd be nice to go back to Croesus.
Get that nailed down. But. Yes, and I am excited on doing that with the Ironman and seeing how that goes without crystal mask and all those fun things.
Ooh.
So we'll sort that one out. Definitely. I've got supplies to make a few hundred restore potions at Super Restores, and we'll need to do that before we go in. And there's some prep work to do, but since they didn't touch Croesus, and that's the last overpowered loot table left in the thing, I kind of wonder if that Mass World is going to get crazy more popular.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm digressing way too far.
That's okay.
Yeah. Lots of bossing has been my week. Bossing and
good
divination.
Tannis, I assume it's Dragon Wilds again. How's that going?
Oh, I love it. It's the RuneScape for me. I mean, it just is. Last week I told you about a big fortress compound I made, and this week I thought, well, what's better than a fortress? A whole damn village. So that's what I've been building. Been building
The
my own
liege lord
village.
expands his the dwellings for his populace.
But I just, I really enjoy it. I like how I kind of push into a new area, build a fort, get a lodestone laid down, start getting into the resources of that area, start to develop the tech from, on the tech tree from the stuff I can make out of there, and it's just this slow kind of. You feel like a French voyageur going down through the rivers in the 17th century, right? Like meeting the tribes.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
The natural explorer in his wild habitat.
Which, I mean, I think is something that, is a natural fit for RS in terms of where that lands. And I only wonder what's going to happen to that game once it gets more skills, once it gets more combat encounters, once it gets more, quests and storyline as that spreads out. I can only wonder where it goes from here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've already there was already a pretty big update. I don't know if it's this week or last week. I think it was early this week. A big update where they did kind of nerf the warbands and the dragon in certain districts because it was just really annoying to build.
Yeah, because they'd always come out at night, right?
Yeah, I mean the warbands still do, and me, I just walk outside. I'm just like, hey, don't beat my door down. I'll just here I am. Don't break my stuff. But it's not as bad now. Now the new area I pushed into, these things, I don't know what they are, but they're tough. But I have ore now, and I'm gonna make some metal stuff. So watch out. I get the bronze. Ooh, and then I'm going back to the swamp. I'm gonna kick everything's ass in the swamp. I spent so many days.
The best upgrade.
Yeah. So I have little skulls, little gravestones all over the damn swamp, and every time I try to collect them, I just get killed again. I'm like, oh, I'm coming back, I'm gonna get you. And then an Abbey demon came out of nowhere to just suck my soul a few times, and I hope someday I am able to beat it because I guess you can get an Abbey whip.
Yep, they are in game.
Yeah, that would be really cool, but. They're no joke, I'll tell you that.
And is this still all on the original same save from when you started?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't really know about any. I mean, it's one of the things that you'd be building and stuff. It's like I don't really want to.
Yeah, you don't want to.
And I don't know how you feel about some nice sharp cheddar, but if you stand on a wall, abyssal demons don't fit on walls, and they can't go up. So you can kind of just shoot them till they're
would totally do that. I wasn't ever able to identify where they were actually standing at.
Oh, but, sure.
The other thing with the bow, and I don't like this with the bow, is every shot you take a hop back.
Oh.
I hate that.
I would assume that something on that would be fixed when the full ranged level ups are added, because right now, you can use bows, but there is no, level up benefits for those skills. So
yeah, same with magic. But the skills that are there are 99s.
Oh, okay.
Oh, they are. I thought I only saw up to the 50s in the thing. Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, I've got 50 and some already, and I mean it's 50 out of 99. So
okay,
you're halfway there.
But the thing about it is, it's just everything means something. Everything counts. Whereas before, click on tree, cut tree, watch number go up. This I need the lumber. I need the lumber to build this and to build that and to go further in the game for this. And I found 2 vaults already. Right, I'm going very, very slow. I'm exhausting the areas I'm in. Right.
We love a completionism. That grind set.
You can take the RS player out of
Apparently, you can't take the RS player out of RS. That's the funniest part of it.
Yeah, that's a great adage. And, I think my number one thing I'm most happy for with this is that I hope it's bringing, an entire new audience to what is RuneScape, and some of these people move over to either of the other MMOs to see that after they've experienced Dragon Wilds. But it's great you're having such a good time with that. But
yeah. So yeah, for the Ironman's just I'm pretty much doing mobile when I'm on RS3, but I'm looking forward to doing Dungeoneering next time, and if we gotta do Croesus, that's fine. Daxie just has to tell me when to juck and when to jive, but I'll go.
I need to relearn it, but we'll do it.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do some achievements right now. We do have a few of them this week compared to previous weeks. So this week we have Feel My Pokes with 120 Necromancy on April 30th. We also have Totally with 120 Fishing on the 26th. Lady Claw got 200 million Agility on the 25th. And then we have Magic with 2 Cs, who got 120 Invention on the 25th, and 99 Ranged on the 24th. Congratulations, everyone.
Nice. Congrats.
Tim, you bring us a crazy pick of the week from what I've been told.
Yes. So some of you may be familiar with the UK version of Taskmaster, but I'm here to tell you about Taskmaster Australia, which is hilarious. So this season in particular, they've got some unhinged people on there. They've got Dave Hughes, who is just, I don't know how he stays as a human being. He is like a toddler in an adult costume. And Tommy Little, there's no telling what he's gonna do. This episode tonight was, I'm not gonna do any spoilers, but it was hilarious.
So can you I'm sorry, can you give a bit of a brief overview of the premise of the show? It's like a game show, or?
So basically there's the main person of the show is called the Taskmaster. He has full control over, assignment of points and everything. What he says is final. If he wants to give you 0 points, you get 0 points. If he wants to give you 5 points, you get 5 points. They will bring on 5 people who are usually comedians, and they will give them a series of tasks and film them separately. And they will try and complete these tasks in the silly manner that they will be given. And usually, lateral thinking is a key skill in order to complete the tasks correctly or in a good time. And I mean, they're comedians and they make dumb decisions, and it's hilarious. And yeah, you get to see the way people's brains work under pressure and ridiculous situations, and I love it.
I think we talked about the UK one before with someone's pick of the week, and so you'd say that this one's obviously, with that, just a step up in terms of the unhinged nature of it. Would that be a good way of putting it?
Yeah, I love the UK. We also watch New Zealand, but Taskmaster Australia, it's cornered the market on Unhinged, and I love it.
What a tagline!
That could be a tagline for things that the RuneScape community talks about too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So in many ways, maybe it's a good show for RuneScape players.
And if you want to watch it, you can just go to their YouTube channel on Taskmaster. They put up all the episodes a few days after it airs.
Oh, okay. I didn't do
For
that
free.
because last time I showed a YouTube channel on here, we got demonetized for the episode. But I'll throw that one in as the link to that in the show notes. So thank you for that.
Okay. Welcome.
Anything else on it? Or anything else?
I mean, like, there's not really any Taskmasters that I'm not a fan of. So, I mean, like, the new UK season just started up tonight. So, I mean, you're not really going to go wrong. Give it a few episodes, that way you get used to the format and everything. But
Format
it's
and
really,
and all that. Okay.
yeah. And that way you get a feel for, like, oh, hey, that was, this is you get the feel of the flow of the show, and you can tell when people are being stupid, and it makes it more funny, if that makes any sense.
Right on. Right on. Well, that pretty much brings us to the end of the episode, Tim. Thank you for being here. I'm glad we were finally able to rope you in to one of these to share you with the listeners for the mystical fifth member of the RSBANDB group, Ironman group.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, of course, and Thaxi as well. Always good to go back to where we started on this show with numbers and mathy type things, at least tangentially.
Random tangents.
Yes,
It's a classic.
And of course, Tanis, always good co-hosting with you here and hearing about the Dragon Wilds RuneScape experience and that's going on in Unreal. So, but that's pretty much it for this episode. If you want full episodes delivered automatically to you, subscribe. We're on all the podcast listening services out there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Pocket Casts, and more. Just visit update.show/subscribe. And of course, we're also on Discord as well, I was going to say, but and YouTube. Boy, I don't know where my brain is going. We're on YouTube as well. You can get the YouTube episodes there at youtube.com/RSBANDB. Give us a like and subscribe. Greatly helps the channel out. I don't know why I said Discord. I have the big red YouTube icon sitting right in front of me, but youtube.com/RSBANDB. You can listen to the video versions of the shows there, in addition to everything else, and the community as well as on our Discord over at update.show/Discord. But anybody have anything else here before we go? Any final parting words, parting goodbyes, anything? No. Okay.
Stay sane out there.
I will take that.
Keep it on.
I will take that as a cue that we're good to go. So thanks everybody for being here, and we'll be back next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
See ya.
Ciao.
Bye.